All right, so we're going to deep dive into Jaipur rugs, but not just like their rugs, okay? We're talking about how to actually like make a playbook, right, for someone new coming into the company, and how do they learn about the core value of dignity? Not
Ooh.
just like the nice fluffy stuff, but like actual things you can do, steps you can take.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love this. This is a really fun challenge. And, Jaipur Rugs is such a unique company
Hmm.
because they really weave together artistry and business and social impact. And, it's all about the well-being of the artisans and empowering them.
Yeah, it's not just a company. It's like a whole philosophy, it seems like. So dignity, we can tell already, is more than just like a buzzword for them. But how do we translate that into something that is tangible, something that a newbie can actually grasp?
Well, I think a really good starting point is their purpose statement. They say that their purpose is to nurture the creative capacity of our artisans and thereby empower them to fulfill their aspirations and live a dignified life.
Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty ambitious, right?
It's big. It's not just about like, okay, we're going to give you fair wages and working conditions, although those are huge. It's something bigger.
Absolutely. And I think what's so powerful about this is that the founder, Nand Kishore Chaudhary, really built the business on this belief that everyone deserves dignity, regardless of like your background or your social standing. And what's really interesting is he faced a lot of pushback from his own family when he started working with what was considered the untouchable weaver class. So you can really see this commitment from the very beginning.
Wow, he's really putting his values into action from day one. So this dignity, it's like baked into the DNA from the get-go. But how does this actually show up in everyday life at Jaipur Rugs?
Well, one powerful example is their language. So instead of calling people workers or employees, they call them artisans.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it's a really subtle shift, but it really acknowledges the skill and the creativity of the people who are making these rugs.
It's like you were talking about a chef, you'd say a culinary artist, instead of just like the cook, right? It's elevating their role.
Exactly. And they also really emphasize the artisan's manshaha, which is their unique desire or vision. And I think what's so powerful about that is it's really recognizing that each person has this inherent worth and potential. And it's really about nurturing that.
I love that. So if we were building this playbook right, could we include like a glossary of sorts, like key terms and phrases that reflect this value of dignity?
That's a brilliant idea because it is like learning a new language, the language of respect and empowerment. But it's not just about words, it's also about symbols.
Symbols. Okay, now you've got my attention. What kind of symbols are we talking about? Like a secret handshake or something?
Not quite a secret handshake. Think a little bit bigger picture. So Jaipur Rugs actually has an inverted pyramid organizational structure.
Wait, an inverted pyramid? Like the artisans are at the top, but isn't that upside down?
It is upside down, and that's the point. So the frontline artisans, the people who are actually making the rugs, they're at the top. And then you have the managers and the executives who are supporting them from below.
Wow, that's a huge departure from the typical corporate hierarchy. What kind of message does that send?
Well, it really screams, we value the doers, the creators.
Yeah.
And so it's a visual representation of their commitment to empowering those who are at the ground level.
And I remember that quote from Chaudhary. He said, doers pay salaries to thinkers. And that's not just lip service. It's like reflected in their structure.
Exactly. Right. So imagine a new employee walks in and sees that. It immediately tells them who holds the power in this company.
Wow. Okay. So we've got language and symbols. That's a pretty solid start for our playbook, I'd say. But dignity can't be just this like static thing, right? How do they actually keep it alive and kicking?
That's where rituals come in. So these are like actions and practices that reinforce that value on a daily basis. And they really help people embody it.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Give me an example. What kind of rituals are we talking about here?
Well, one fascinating ritual is the higher school of unlearning. And it's this really interesting process where they have experienced professionals, people who've come from, good schools and have lots of, experience working in businesses. They actually work alongside the veteran managers who have often, not had a formal education.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so you have these, hotshot grads learning from someone who's been weaving rugs for decades.
That sounds like a recipe for some interesting clashes. But also, like, super interesting, right?
Exactly. And that's the beauty of it. It really forces everyone to check their egos at the door and recognize that, expertise comes in many forms, and it can come from really unexpected places.
So it's not just about book smarts. It's about respecting experience and wisdom gained from years of, being on the front lines. That's powerful stuff.
Exactly. And it's a ritual that really reinforces the idea that everyone has something valuable to contribute, regardless of their background or, their level of education.
So in our playbook, could we suggest that like new members participate in this unlearning program, maybe shadow a veteran artisan for a day?
Absolutely. It's about immersing themselves in the culture and experiencing this value of dignity firsthand.
Okay, so we're back, and we're really going to unravel this whole dignity thing at Jaipur Rugs. Last time we were talking about that inverted pyramid structure and that higher school of unlearning thing, which blew my mind.
Yeah.
Now let's zoom out a little bit, right?
hmm
Let's see how this commitment to dignity actually plays out, like beyond the company walls.
That's a great point, because it's one thing to say you value dignity, but how do you actually put it into practice when you're dealing with like all your stakeholders?
Right. Dignity can't just be this internal slogan. It has to show up in like how you deal with the artisans, the suppliers, the customers, like the whole shebang.
Exactly. And I think Jaipur Rugs is a really interesting example of how you can have ethical and sustainable business practices and actually be successful.
Okay, I like it. So let's break it down, starting with the heart of it all, right?
Yeah.
The artisans. How does Jaipur Rugs make sure that their dignity is like front and center?
Well, we talked about the Manshaha project a little bit before, and giving artisans that creative control is huge
Oh.
because you're saying, we value your expertise, we value your artistry, we value your unique perspective.
Yeah. It's like saying, we don't just want your hands, we want like your heart and soul in these rugs.
Exactly. So it goes beyond just providing a job. It's about empowering them to express themselves. And I think you can really see that in the incredible diversity and beauty of the rugs that they produce.
Yeah. I bet that creative freedom does wonders for their morale and their motivation too.
Yeah.
But dignity isn't just about like, artistic expression, right?
Right. It's also about things like fair wages and the safe working conditions. And, Jaipur Rugs really walks the walk here. They often pay their artisans significantly more than like the industry standard.
Wow, that's fantastic. So they're not just talking the talk, right?
Yeah.
It's reflected in their actions.
Yeah.
Okay, that's huge.
Absolutely. And they also provide access to healthcare and education programs for the artisans and their families.
Oh, wow.
So it's really about fostering their well-being in a very holistic way.
Yeah, it's not just a transactional relationship. It's about investing in their growth and their development as people.
Exactly. And recognizing that their well-being is actually intertwined with the company's success.
Right.
And this approach, it goes beyond the individual artisans too. Jaipur Rugs also actively works with the communities where they operate.
So it's not like they just kind of like swoop in, they get their rugs, and they leave.
No, not at all. They invest in community development projects like focusing on healthcare, education, and infrastructure.
Wow. That's a long-term commitment, right? They're not just extracting value, they're actually giving back and contributing to the community's well-being.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful example of how business can be a force for positive change. And you know what? This whole approach has a ripple effect. It resonates with customers too.
That makes sense. I mean, people are becoming more and more conscious of like where their products come from and the impact of their purchases.
Right. Like today's consumer cares about ethical sourcing. They care about social impact. They want to know that the people behind the products are treated with dignity.
So Jaipur Rugs' story, their commitment to dignity, it becomes a selling point, like in itself.
Well, it's a really powerful one because it builds trust and loyalty, and it creates a genuine connection between the customer and the brand.
It's like they're saying, when you buy a Jaipur rug, you're not just buying like a beautiful piece of art, you're supporting this whole ecosystem built on dignity and respect.
Exactly. It's a real testament to this idea that doing good can also be good for business.
I love that. Okay, so we talked about artisans, we talked about communities, we talked about customers. What about suppliers? Does this whole dignity philosophy apply to them as well?
Absolutely. So Jaipur Rugs extends the same principles of fairness and transparency to their suppliers. And they really prioritize ethical sourcing practices and make sure that everyone in that supply chain is treated with respect.
So it's not just about the end product, it's about the whole journey of how that product is made.
Exactly. And this creates a much more resilient and sustainable business model because it's about building a network of trust and shared values.
Okay. I'm starting to see how all of this fits together. But how do we translate this into our playbook for new members? How do we make sure that they get this whole holistic approach to dignity?
Well, you can't just tell them about Jaipur Rugs' values. You have to show them.
Oh, so instead of like a boring list of rules, we give them an experience.
Exactly. So imagine you include in the playbook testimonials from artisans or community leaders, even customers, and let them hear firsthand how Jaipur Rugs' approach has impacted real lives.
I love that idea. Show, don't tell. Make it personal. Make it real. What else can we do to kind of like bring this whole dignity concept to life for new members?
Think about activities. Like, what if you encourage new members to participate in a community development project? Or even visit the artisan villages?
Oh, that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
It's about going beyond the boardroom and experiencing the impact of their work, like firsthand.
Exactly. It's about immersing themselves in the culture, building those relationships, understanding the human stories behind the brand.
Yeah.
It's about making dignity a lived experience and not just a concept.
This is so exciting. I feel like we're starting to really paint a picture of what this playbook could look like and how we can actually equip new members to not just understand, but actually embody this value of dignity.
And that's what's so unique about Jaipur rugs. They've really figured out how to weave this profound respect for human dignity into every fiber of their business.
Oh, I love that. This is mind-blowing. But there's more, right? We still need to figure out how to translate all of this into like concrete actions for our playbook.
You're absolutely right. We've laid the groundwork. We've explored the impact. Now it's time to get specific.
Okay, you're on. Let's do this. Okay, so we're back. And I feel like now it's time to like really hammer out the specifics of this playbook, right? We've explored kind of like the why behind Jaipur Rugs' commitment to dignity, but now it's like, okay, how do we actually do this thing?
Yeah, totally. It's time to take all these like inspiring concepts we've been talking about and turn them into concrete actions that people can actually use.
Right, exactly.
It's like we're giving them the toolkit to navigate this unique company culture.
A toolkit. Okay, so imagine we're handing this playbook to like a brand new member of the Jaipur Rugs family, right? What are like the top 3 things that we absolutely need them to understand and actually do?
Okay, top 3 things. So number 1 has got to be active listening. And I mean really listening, especially to the artisans.
Okay, so more than just like nodding politely and pretending to absorb everything?
Way more. It's about being present in the moment. It's about asking thoughtful questions and really trying to see the world through their eyes. You know, imagine you're sitting down with an artisan who's been weaving rugs for generations. I mean, they have so much knowledge and experience to share.
Yeah, I bet they have stories that would just blow our minds.
Totally.
But how do we encourage that kind of deep listening?
Yeah.
Especially in like a fast-paced work environment, right?
Well, the playbook could include things like prompts or guidelines, you know, encourage new members to spend time in the villages, visit the weaving centers, and just observe.
Oh, like that.
Yeah. And, you know, even shadowing an artisan for a day would be so valuable.
It's about soaking up the culture,
Yeah.
right? Understanding the context of their work. Not just seeing a rug, but understanding the hands and the hearts that created it.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing the artisans as individuals, each with their own unique story, their own manchaha.
Yeah.
You know, active listening is really the foundation of respect and understanding.
Okay, active listening, check. That's in our toolkit. What's the next essential tool for embodying dignity?
Embrace the higher school of unlearning. And I know that might sound counterintuitive, but it's all about being open to new perspectives, even from like unexpected sources.
Yeah.
Remember we were talking about those seasoned professionals learning from the veteran artisans?
Yeah.
It's about setting aside your ego and recognizing that wisdom can come from anyone, regardless of like their background or their title.
Oh, that's such a good reminder. How do we actually encourage that kind of like humility and openness in our new recruits?
Well, we can highlight stories of successful unlearning within the company.
Oh, that's good.
You know, show them how embracing different perspectives has led to innovation and breakthroughs.
Ooh, maybe even include like a section in the playbook where new members can share their own unlearning moments. Like, what surprised you today? Or what did you learn from someone who's different from you?
I love that idea because it makes unlearning an ongoing practice. A way of life at Jaipur Rugs.
Beautiful. Okay, so we got active listening, we got embracing unlearning. What's the final piece of this dignity puzzle?
I think it's about becoming an ambassador for dignity. It's about taking that value and weaving it into every interaction, every decision that you make.
So it's not just about how you treat the artisans, but how you treat like literally everyone you encounter in your work.
Exactly. So it's about treating your suppliers fairly. It's about advocating for ethical sourcing practices. And it's about interacting with your customers with respect and authenticity.
Wow.
It's about becoming like a walking, talking embodiment of Jaipur Rugs' values.
I love that. And that kind of commitment, it's contagious, right?
Totally. It can inspire others to embrace those same values.
Yeah.
And you create this ripple effect of positive change.
That's beautiful. And it reinforces this whole idea that dignity isn't just this nice to have. It's like a driving force behind a successful and sustainable business.
It's a core value that benefits everyone, the artisans, the employees, the communities, the customers, and ultimately the world.
Wow. We covered so much ground today. From language and symbols to rituals and actions, I feel like we really unpacked what makes Jaipur Rug's approach to dignity so unique and impactful.
It's been an inspiring journey for sure.
Yeah.
And I think we've given a really solid foundation for this playbook, and we can really use this to empower new members to become a part of this incredible culture.
And you know what? For our listeners out there, just remember that these principles we've been talking about today, they're not limited to just Jaipur rugs. They're universal, right?
They totally are. Whether you're a CEO or a student, you can take these ideas and incorporate them into your own life and your own work.
Active listening, embracing unlearning, becoming an ambassador for dignity. These are tools that we can all use to build a more just and equitable world.
So well said.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into dignity. We hope you've been inspired to weave these values into the fabric of your own life.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, everyone, keep seeking, keep learning, and keep spreading the spirit of dignity.